All right, here we are, March 2021. This is Hollis with your monthly Surrender to Remember Portal Collective Oracle reading. So today is 3/3/2021, and the theme for this month is essentially getting familiar with our emotions and using somatic experiencing to help release stuck emotions from either traumas we've experienced or just to learn basic skills of processing our emotions. So watch the workshop. Please watch the workshop. Tune into, I'd say this is an especially good month. Every month is good to tune into these live sessions, but this is going to be an especially good month if you do these workshops and something comes up for you, to tune into Jessica's session on the 8th of March, which you can tune in live and always watch the recording no matter when you're coming to this video. So that's going to be on the 8th, and then both the new moon and the full moon astrology forecasts are going to be particularly important this month, I believe, especially if you're going deep into your own inner being. And then the coaching call, which is going to be the third Monday of this month. And that's just going to be helping people doing live coaching through some questions or experiences that may be coming up. And we can drop in even deeper in your experience in that way. So this month is, the cards do not lie. This is going to be a month of really, so this is where I begin. So this is the overall theme of the month, is the fault line. So we're really coming up against this place with which most of us have a lot of fear around, which is facing our emotions. These practices are going to take us straight into the depths of the depth, the underworld, the shadows. We all know that these go hand in hand, shadow and light. There is no darkness without light. So don't let this card scare you. It's a very truthful card that this can bring up some really quote unquote painful things to face. But the funny thing is that it's not actually our pain that is painful. It's the resistance of that pain that is painful and that causes us suffering. So this is just a heads up to let you know that, especially if you aren't familiar with this kind of work, that this could seem on the outside, it could appear to be very, very frightening at first when we first start to really start to unpack what's been going on for us, what we've been holding on to. And this could be all the way back to birth, right? So this card is kind of what is the outcome of this work, and I think this is beautiful. It's the mirror. You're going to see so much clearer with clear eyes when we start to do this work, which is very much radical responsibility, claiming our emotions, claiming the responsibility for them, that no one else is responsible for our emotions, that we are the ones who have the power over our well-being and life, and this is a huge part of just being human, that we get clearer, and then we get to use our mirrors as a gift. We start to see our entire world reflected back to us, which is an exact reflection on what's the inside, and what's on the inside, and when we learn the tools that can help us navigate the inner works of our being, which we're often running away from, but not in this group, because that's what we do in here, is we take responsibility for our lives, and we do the deep inner work so that we can have massive transformations. And really it's all about remembering who we are and what we came here to do. And this mirror coming up, I was so thrilled about, because that means that many of you are going to be taking your power back in doing this work, which means that we get to use the world as our mirror and as our teacher. And anything that comes up from here on out, when we have the tools, we aren't afraid to go inside and face what is blocking us, face those limiting beliefs, face those core wounds, face, the judgments we've been holding on to for so long. So I'm going to get in more depth, but I'm just going to give you an overall look at these cards. So those are kind of the major themes of what this month represents. These, I draw from these two decks, the Lemuria deck. I ask, what do the ancient ancestors of Lemuria have to share with us? And this is all about a full body experience, coming back to wholeness, using all of our tools without fear, from, you know, the ground all the way up to heaven, earth all the way up to heaven, using this full range of energy to bring full spectrum healing. And this to me is all about, again, just responsibility, a path back to wholeness, emotional mastery, emotional sovereignty is truly a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. It's not the only piece. We do have to work on our mindset, and, you know, we do work on other bodies essentially than just the emotional body, but that's what we're focusing on this month. And once we start to get comfortable with learning the language of our soul, which is our emotions, we can have this beginning look at really solving a big piece of the puzzle and coming back to wholeness. What does this result in? It results in our freedom. It results in freedom in so many ways. I don't really need to say more about that. Again, what is this work? Here, there's two owls here, which I find really powerful. So this is the journey of remembering who we are. This is a huge piece of the journey. We're going to be looking at emotional mastery and doing this work more in depth each month. But for the next 3 months, we're going to get into triggers and mindset and how it's all related, and do deeper work in the months to come. But this is just kind of the introduction. So this is just, we're embarking on a journey. And the hummingbird, such good medicine. This is the journey back to freedom and joy. And there's a lot more that I can say about the hummingbird, but I'll read those in the description. And then what is the result of this work? Cracking you wide open for, you know, in whatever form you want to take that. But I look at this card as saying, like, this is really the work that's going to crack you open, help you get so much freedom from your stuckness, from the suffering, from the patterns you've been living by, from the conditioning you've been essentially reacting out of since who knows when. And then I'll go through the spirit animals at the end and those meanings. So let's go back and let's take a look at these overall theme cards in a little more in depth. So this excuse me, the overarching theme of this month is the fault line. The fault line represents the fissure, the crack, the weak line. Oh, we're going to be cracked wide open this month. Imagine walking across a frozen lake that begins to crack before your eyes. No matter how optimistic and brave you might be, panic ensues. You become fearful and tense and long for stable ground. Such is the energy of the fault line. So if you're having those feelings of not wanting to go there, especially once you start sinking into these emotions, this is a very normal reaction, especially if it's the thing that you've been avoiding feeling for many of us, it's pretty much from our entire lives. So if you're feeling that, you're in the right place. It's the energy of walking on eggshells, of precarious dynamics, of sensing what is ready to break open into chaos. It's likely this cracking open is well overdue, as fault lines develop slowly and naturally from underlying elemental pressures. This card comes up as a potent warning not to deny the shakiness that's afoot. It's much better to prepare yourself for change than to walk along the fault line pretending all is well. This could not be a more perfect card to give you an introduction into what this work can often feel like once we start approaching it. It is much better to prepare yourself for change than to walk along the fault line pretending all is well. There is no easy fix for this situation at hand. It will require a foundational shift that alters the current dynamics from the ground up. So that again, just proof that this work is truly foundational to making major changes in your life. And once you start, you're going to know that the work is your responsibility. There's essentially no going back. It's all about redefining reality and breaking wide open. So let's take a look at the underworld. Again, a very a pivotal card in terms of, once we go there, there's not really any coming back as the same person. So this is kind of like a death, like experiencing a death of certain ways we've been living and operating for many, many years. And the beauty is always coming out reborn. But we do have to go into those dark places oftentimes to really experience the gifts of the underworld. This is no time to mince words. The archetypal territory of the underworld is fraught with nightmares, suffering, and pain. It is the darkest shadow realm which we try vigilantly to avoid or deny at any cost. Try as we might, the darkness pulls us into its depths through disturbing dream images, unexpected accidents, illness, war, conflict, and ultimately death. Not visiting the underworld or denying its existence altogether is what gives it dangerous power. This is so true. This is what the majority of us are doing in regards to avoiding our pain, avoiding our emotions. Traversing it forces us to bow humbly to the greater forces that be, while summoning the inner strength we previously underestimated. Take solace that the underworld subsumes everyone from time to time, making us deeper friends, more intimate partners, soldiers of light in our shadowy times. Facing darkness and choosing light is the most profound calling of all. Takes bravery, depth, and the facing of our deepest fears. And what does this bring us? This brings us to the mirror. So the reason this can seem so hard is because we expect it to be hard to feel our feelings. We're afraid of what we might find in the underworld. We're afraid of what we might discover. But truly, the path to liberation is going down and letting yourself sink to the bottom of the ocean, right? We've mentioned that term a few times this last week. Just allowing yourself to sink and allowing yourself to go there. And essentially what you're going to find, and I promise you this, is that you will prove to yourself that it's not as scary as you thought it was. So I'm teaching you the emotional wisdom, these tools, and there are many. I've just given you 2 exercises this month, and we're starting on the surface. So, but I'm teaching you these tools to emotional processing, because I know the community I attract, which are going to be a lot of people like me who are very sensitive, who weren't given the tools about emotional processing and mastery when they were young. And so we developed all of these skewed perceptions of it. Like, I'm going to die from my pain, or like, I'm so messed up that no one is going to like me and accept me if they know who I am. So I'm going to continue to hide. And we deny the truth of who we are. The language of our soul, that's what Neil Donald Walsh in his book, Conversations with God, calls emotions the language to our soul. If we weren't taught how to interpret the language, then we developed all kinds of perceptions about it that aren't necessarily true. So I'm teaching you the emotional stuff first, so that you have this knowing that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, sometimes I like to think of the worst possible situation. This is actually often a question that I'll ask my clients, is what is the worst possible thing you could ever imagine happening if you went down this road? If you went down the road that you're avoiding going down. And that often gets us to this place of realizing that, like, no matter what the worst possible thing imaginable that we can imagine, that we're absolutely meant to handle it. So I just say that, preface that with, this is often going to feel hard. It might be a subconscious response too. So just be curious about your process this week, or this month, excuse me, and allow yourself to sink deeper and deeper. And that is why I recommend doing this exercise at least once a week this month, if not more. And you can choose smaller, less charged experiences to kind of get the feel for it, and then go for the bigger triggers and the bigger situations in your life to begin to prove to yourself that it's totally okay. It's totally okay to feel. Your body's meant to do this. You're not going to die from it. And it truly is, once you feel those stored, suppressed emotions to completion, they are no longer there. It will clear up your mental faculties. It will clear up your perceptions of other people. It will clear up your intuition. It's going to clear up so much more when your energy is able to flow in your body at a more fluid pace and rate. Because when we're suppressing emotions, and if this has been going on for a really long time, then our energy really is blocked in certain parts of our body. So I think this is a foundation to moving forward into the mindset, into the, getting to the core wounds, into the unraveling what is really underneath those emotions. I just think this is a really good place to start. So, and it's going to take you to deep places really fast. So let's take a look at what the mirror has to say. The mirror is the reflection, the illusion, the looking glass. We look into mirrors every day without recognizing them as portals into another realm. They can shatter. Oh, this is so what I said to me. This is so beautiful. I love the mirror card, by the way, because this is the ultimate pinnacle of being self-responsible and being a student of life, is when you can look at the world around you and, triggered or not, look at every experience and say, oh my God, this is what, you see some behavior in someone else and you say, oh, that's because I have it in me. Cool. Where can I go in and uncover that limiting belief, process that emotion, plant a new seed for, a new sense of safety and freedom, and essentially take off that perception that's leading you down a path that you don't want to go to. The mirror is just beautiful and gorgeous and so expansive and such a good teacher. Okay. We look into mirrors every day without recognizing them as portals into another realm. They can shatter, flatter, distort, reflect, and project an image back to us that we deem to be true. The energy of the mirror is all about self-perception. When the archetype of the mirror appears, we are in the mythic land of Narcissus, who saw himself reflected in a pool and fell in love with his own image. So compelled by his reflection, he could not turn away, a fixation that eventually led to his death. Recognize the power and danger of the mirror. It is a construct, one that may drive a shard between you and your true self. The mirror contains trickster energy. Put the phone down, stop with the comparisons, and let the mirror stand empty for a while. Rest with the one inside. The shadowy, the darker side of that is really, I don't see that. Yes, I see it as being kind of a quote unquote warning, because if we still are seeing the world from a victim stance, we will continue to see our mirrors and not take responsibility for our actions. So we will blame and we will shame and we will continue to get exactly that. We will continue to be victims in our life. But when we do take self-responsibility and we say, this person is showing me something about me that's in me, and I'm going to claim that, and I'm not going to reject that part of me. In fact, I'm going to go straight in there and I'm going to say, what is this? Let me think of an example. So I see martyrdom in my, in certain people in my life. So I can say, what is this martyrdom telling me about me? I'm going to go in and I'm going to uncover, I'm going to face that story head on. I'm going to remove that person out of being annoying, right? I'm going to remove the judgment and I'm going to say, I'm only seeing that because that's in me. So I'm going to go straight in there. I'm already feeling it. As I'm saying it, I can feel it in my heart. So I'm going to start to feel it in my body. I'm going to start to just experience those feelings. I'm going to perhaps replay the story only for one reason, only to conjure up the feeling and the experience of that feeling in my body. So I'm not going to add another story to it. I'm going to be responsible about this mirror. I'm going to start to feel it, start to allow those emotions to move, allow that energy to move. I'm going to do a somatic experience practice around it. And then I'm going to close the door on that experience. And if I need to come back to it, I'm not going to say, if I see it again, if I see the mirror come up again, I'm going to say, I'm going to face this mirror as many times as I need to until I learn what is at the very, very root of that reflection I'm having. So that's the real light side of the mirror. And I think the warning about this is don't get into a state where you don't think you're powerful enough or wise enough to face that mirror, and don't think it's about anyone else. Okay, when you take full responsibility for your emotions, knowing that no one else can cause you to feel a certain way, that is because of the perception you have that you are feeling a certain way. That is so empowering. It's so, so, so important on this path to remembering and ascension and returning to who we really are, remembering who we really are. Okay, so passionate about the mirror, could you tell? Let's move on to what Lemuria has to offer us this month. So the full spectrum card tells us, I love these cards, by the way. I'll let you have another closer look at that. This card reminds us to go beyond the judgment of good and bad. Has a lot of what I just explained in that story I just told about the mirror. I'm going to take a drink here. All about honoring the perfection of nature's cycles, going beyond the judgment of good and bad, the merging of duality. That's beautiful. So once we get past our judgments of our feelings, once we feel those to completion and we open up all of this energy flow in our body, we really have that wisdom available to us to no longer judge and just see, that we can see that darkness is just as important as the light, that sadness, the pain is just as important as the joy. Without one, we can't have another. So the merging of duality. Earth wisdom, so a reminder to stay grounded this month. Connecting with your ancestors. This may come up as a result of going into our emotions, or this may be a reminder as well to use your ancestry, use your lineage to bring up those things that need to be processed. Because we come into the world the second we're born, probably even before, because I have heard many stories of people having memories of being in the womb. So probably really even before we're born, we start to develop this conditioning, right? So this card is calling us to connect with the ancestors. And I believe that is telling us to use that as a tool to conjure up some of this emotions to begin processing it. Using our shadows as the fertile soil for exponential growth. The way forward is in the whisperings of the land, honoring the full spectrum of life. So the emotional body is huge, right? It's a huge part of our bodies. We have the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body, the spiritual body, the light body, the astral body. So we have all these bodies. Well, the emotional body is a huge body of this. So this is one part of bringing us back and honoring that full spectrum of life. So it says, step out of the black and white mentality of judgment. Go beyond the concepts of good and bad. This card invites you to honor the full spectrum of life and find a new way of perceiving your situation. When we judge something, we create a story around it. These stories often create limitation. Subconsciously, we gather so many of these stories over a lifetime. To heal our disease and crystallize the new way, we need to create a space of no story where miraculous healing can happen. This space empowers us to be all that we are and allows us to know our truth. So this is an incredible reminder to, as you're doing these practices, continue to remove the mind, to not create more stories, and really to not, it's not about resisting the stories when the stories come up, but it's just about separating yourself, getting enough distance between that to say, you know, I am not this. I may be thinking this, but I am not this. Same with feelings. I may be feeling pain, and I may be feeling anger, and I may be feeling shame, but I am not angry. I am not shame. I am not those things. So when we step out of judgment, kind of like zoom out for a second, it's so much easier to go into these feelings knowing that, you know, they're just things we're experiencing. And you can go even further and say, these are things my body is experiencing. Oh, this is interesting. Let me just zoom out and hold space for my body to have this experience, knowing that I am not that. And that story that I'm having, well, that's something that was created at one point in my history to, you know, protect me, or because I just picked it up from some random story that I heard one time, but I am not that story. I may have had it in my database for a long time, but that doesn't mean I am that. And that starts to give you the power when you zoom out and step back from a, you know, judgmental place right in the thick of being in this dualistic reality and being intertwined with the story and identifying yourself with this person who's emotional and trying to avoid feeling that. When you zoom out, it gives yourself, at least me, it gives me more of this, oh, okay, I can hold space for my body. I can step into my higher self in this moment and really bring the judgment out of it for just a second. I recognize that I have judged it for a long time, but you know what? I'm going to decide in this moment to not be so judgmental of that feeling. And I'm going to go straight into the shame and just allow my body to experience what the emotion it wants to do as it moves through my body. So this is a huge, huge path to freedom. Really, really should open the gates wide open in doing this work. I really don't need to say more about this card, but I am going to see if there are any little tidbits that are in this explanation that I want to add in. So, you know, of course, this is the dragonfly. I have one tattoo. It's on my right hip, and it's of a dragonfly. I didn't know it at the time, but it's very much the attachment to freedom makes sense. So it's all about living the life you love, liberation as a shift in perspective. Look at that, liberation as a simple shift in perspective. The many facets of freedom, inviting enjoyment and inspiration to your life, discovering what freedom means to you, overcoming limitation, unbound creative expression, and choice over obligation. This is bringing up something that I want to add in terms of this may seem like a hard, quote unquote, hard path or hard to do, but it honestly, this can be just as enjoyable and just as pleasurable to feel into the pain, to allow yourself to throw that tantrum, to just be angry, so angry that you feel like your skin is going to burn off of your body. I mean, it can be so liberating to allow yourself to feel that stuff. The other things people avoid often are sinking into the self-loathing. We think, oh my God, if I admit that I hate myself, I'm going to really hate myself. That is so not true. I did this exercise. I went into this letter exercise where I just finally was like, you know what? I hate this about me. I hate the way I react to this. I hate what I say to this person. I actually hate that person and what they do to me too. And I really riffed on this for a long time, and I'd never done that before, but I had recognized for a long time, pretty much starting in my teens when I started to think so poorly about myself because I couldn't, quote unquote, get it together or do it, be the perfect girl or live up to other people's standards. I started being hard on myself, and I beat myself up for almost 20 years of my life until I finally did this, just sunk into all of that. Of course, realizing that that's not true, but I really had to go that path of feeling those feelings, feeling the shame, feeling the guilt, feeling the hatred, feeling the anger. And once that moved, I am fully in this moment able to say I have more inner self-love and inner self-worth as a result of doing that exercise than I have in my entire life. And it was by doing the exact opposite thing that I thought I should do. I thought that I was going to make it way worse by going into all of that. So I just mentioned that because this can be a real liberation if you allow yourself to sink deep and really go into those places that you haven't been willing to go to before. So let's look at what the Mystical Shaman Oracle has to say in regards to this being a journey and what the Hummingbird card has to say. And then this is more of like the outcome of doing this work. This is kind of the journey, the journey of doing this work. So 29. Again, not really much needs to be said about the journey, but it is an invitation to step outside of the boundaries of your life as you know it. The journey says it's not a holiday, so it's not always easy. It's a call to be hermit-like and to go on a pilgrimage into the unknown. There are no maps to the territory you will be exploring, and no marked paths or road signs. So the invitation. My daughter just saw me, so we'll let her have a moment to express her feelings. Good timing, right? Babies are such good, I can't think of any more perfect example of just getting a sense of what it feels like and what it looks like and what it is like to allow emotions to express through your body, just to move through your body. So the invitation in terms of this card is saying it's time to embark on the great journey. The time is here. Don't linger in the port where distant shores are calling. Fearlessly draw your own navigational charts as you discover the route. When the time is right, as it is now, you will be led true even when you are not sure of where you are going. Again, diving into the ocean, diving into the depths. You never know what the outcome is going to be. Of course, trust that it's going to bring you liberation, but it seems like you're never going to come out of it in the moment. So just trust the process, leap into the unknown. It says it's the departure that is most important. The journey is calling you, but the timing is premature. Collecting postcards or fantasies of where you want to go may take over your focus and make you miss your destiny. Other things must be completed first, or you may still be attached to knowing the destination. Remember that the point of the journey is not the destination. It's who you will become as you are transformed along the way. Do not confuse the inner and the outer journey. So this is, again, so pertinent and relevant to why I am sharing the emotional stuff first before we get into the deep mindset work, before we get into the core wound work, before we even get into the trigger work, which is a whole nother lesson. You may be able to use this work, of course, in regards to the triggers that are happening, but this is really testament to me in affirming that this work is foundational. So enjoy the journey. This is going to be tools. It's not like you practice it once and it ends. These are tools you're going to learn and use and call upon the rest of your life. This is really foundational to living an enlightened life, if you will, an awakened life. That's a much better word. I don't even know what enlightenment means, honestly. Let's just use the word awake, to live woken up, to live aware. You're never going to not feel. That's why we're here. So the more you can sink into surrendering to the perception, surrendering to the process, that this is the journey. This, in fact, is one very important piece, critical, crucial, incredibly important piece to the journey. You're going to start just, you're going to use this without even having to think about it. It's going to start happening in your life without even knowing it's happening. You're going to have a trigger happen, and versus react on that person, you're going to go home and you're going to journal about it, and you're going to process those emotions, and you're going to go to bed free of that. That's how this works. So trust the journey. It can be a tough one to embark on, but it's really going to take you to your ultimate freedom. Let's see what the hummingbird has to say. Those two cards fell out of the deck at the same time. So I knew that the hummingbird wanted to come in and give us a message as well. This is interesting. So despite being so little, hummingbirds are great journeyers, migrating between North and Central or South America to feed from the summer nectar. This gentle creature can be fiercely territorial to protect its home. So I think this is a little bit of a warning. Don't be fiercely territorial of what's going on now. Hummingbird teaches us to be gentle to ourselves, perfect, and protect our personal space. Hummingbird invites you to embark on your epic quest. Bypass the dung pile of old pain and hurts. Oh, yes. Head for the flowers and learn to trust the calling you hear ever so softly. The buzzing you feel is the sound of your hummingbird wings preparing you to say yes to a new adventure. This is not the time to linger on what has gone wrong, but to trust in the rightness of the moment and take bold action forward. Trust that success is assured, even if you must face tests and challenges to reach your destination. Know that all will be well because the all is in the small. Beautiful. This mighty being comes to teach you that stillness is in motion and to trust your inner knowing that the sweetest nectar is assured. Failing to act when the moment is right can spoil your journey. If you feel your safety, comfort, or day-to-day survival are more important than saying yes to the invitation to explore the unknown, you will have to work much harder to achieve what is being offered to you freely now. Still your mind, even in the midst of your very hectic schedule, and heed the gentle voice that calls to you to test new wings. I want to say two things about that before we move on to the Thunder card. One is that, now I lost my train of thought. So first, if you have a hesitation to this exercise, if your first inclination was, I'll just check back in next month, or I don't need that, that is the number one heads up that this work is going to be incredibly powerful for you. And don't take the denial as a judgment against yourself, or what I'm saying is a judgment against you. That's because it's your ego trying to protect itself, saying that if you do this work, some part of you is going to shift in a major, major way. So I just want to say that one thing. And then that if your first, feeling or emotion about this topic was, no, I'm not going there, I don't have time, or, whatever excuse, just know that that's a huge invitation, that there's a major breakthrough that's going to happen if you do end up embarking on this journey. And you can go as deep as you want. Like I said, practice these exercises as much as you want. And the second thing I wanted to say is just in regards to my own experience with this. So, I started this work for the first time when I was 23, and have made little bits of progress along the way. And I can say that doing this somatic work has been the most powerful, in combination with the mindset work that I'm going to teach you. But the somatic processing and the way we're doing it has been the most powerful, deeply transformational, liberating exercises that I have ever done. So a little goes a long way. That's what I want to say about this in terms of this little bird, right? A little goes a long way. It doesn't mean that you've been suppressing that emotions or memory for 38 years. It doesn't mean it's going to take you 38 years to be rid of it. It can literally take you 38 seconds. Literally, that's how powerful this work can be. So, moving on to the outcome of this work in regards to the Thunder card. So the essence is that the thunder, legends speak of great thunder beings who live in the sky and call for your attention when great occurrences are meant to happen in the world. They warn when tensions in a situation are called upon to be released. Their presence in your reading reminds you of the dramatic moments in life that change everything. Both awesome and frightening when thunder arrives, it is also a wake-up call, one that you will not soon forget. When thunder comes into your reading, it refers to a big dramatic change that feels like a herd of wild bison on the run. You feel it right through your bones, and you know that you are powerless to influence whatever events have been set in motion. This is a time to be prepared for anything. Your life is an adventure, and wonderful opportunities are arriving now. The trick is to learn to run with them, not against them, or not away from them. Qualities that you'll need now more than ever are flexibility, dexterity, and a willingness to experience it all without dictating from where or in what form opportunities will come. Your destiny is arriving. Be ready. Wow, that couldn't be more pertinent. I hadn't read that until just now. So nothing more needs to be said about that card. You get the message. So just a few things about the animals that came in to support us. Because I like animal medicine, and I'm, those of you who are working on your own animal totems and your own animal medicine, that's always something that you can share in the Facebook group. So these are the ones that came into with messages for the collective. Rabbit. Rabbit is here to teach us that to face our fears. So rabbits are a little bit skittish, if you want to think of them as that. But they're also very aware. But just to go ahead and face your fears, that's a message from Rabbit. Examine and use the tools we have within ourselves. And perhaps being vulnerable will help your progress this month. So Fox brings us the message of thinking outside of the box. So this to me translates to breaking free from our comfortable patterns, breaking out of our comfort zone. And then a fox is very persistent and patient. So teaching us persistence and patience, and also about adjusting to a new norm. So all of those things are very relevant in this process. Like I said, you can get a huge, massive breakthrough in a matter of seconds, and you might have to process the emotions of a certain situation enough times to where you fully surrender to the depth of that and are ready to process them to their fullest. That might take 50 times. So persistence and patience is a great reminder. They are all about finding a solution to the problem. So that's great. This is offering a huge solution. I've offered you 2 really powerful exercises that you can practice this month. And Fox is also here to remind us that we have all of the tools and resources available to access anything you desire. So Owl. Owl is here to teach us to sit quiet and still and observe. Remove yourself from the, what does that say? I'm not sure what I wrote down. Basically, I think what I wanted to know about Owl is they have such keen senses and they're so wise. Let's not get wrapped up in the drama. Take all of your senses and turn them inward this month. So be the wise observer of yourself. Yes, use outside situations and drama to perhaps conjure up the emotions, but let's remember that this is our own inner journey. This isn't, let's not get wrapped up in the drama about our outer situation. Open your eyes and wisely and honestly examine how things are on the inside. And I wrote down the sharp senses can help pierce through the shadows beyond the fear and the darkness and enter and reach the realm of light, which brings us happiness. And it's here to offer you wisdom and knowledge from your higher self. So surrender to these practices and really tap into and make space for that higher wisdom. And then Weasel. What does Weasel have to teach us? I thought this was a cute card that came out. All these cards just popped out. I didn't mean to draw 4, but that's what happened. So Weasel, so the Weasel is stealthy. So I thought this was the humor card coming through, because sometimes it is, we have to be, our ego is a tricky animal and it hides things from us. And so we do need to be a little bit stealthy in the ways that we bring up these emotions to the surface. We may need to do a meditation to get into our heart, and then we may need to do a breath practice to get into our body, and then we may need to turn the somatic experience exercise on. And if we're still not feeling much, write more and more, maybe bring up a different situation. So this is kind of telling me that, like, sometimes our emotions like to hide really well. So be stealthy like the Weasel, and go and be creative about the ways you pull them up. Hear what is, so also teaching us to hear what is really being said, learning to listen more appropriately to the language of our emotions. So I love that. So let's use this as an opportunity to just learn to decipher what our emotions are trying to tell us. What does our anger mean? What's it trying to teach us? We're not, let's see. And then looking for the hidden reasons behind anything. So, I think I wrote down that just in regards to what's the real meaning behind that emotion? What is the real, because it's never about the story. The story can help us, but those were put in place to honestly help us not feel the emotion, as like our excuse to not have to feel it, kind of to justify us maybe, or to protect us from that. So looking for the hidden reasons. Okay, you guys, I've gone a little bit longer with this reading than I expected, but I think this is a really powerful month, and so maybe that's why it deserved the length of time it took to go into these cards and give you a lay of the land energetically of what the oracle is presenting to us. So we have the beautiful archetype energy supporting us and giving us a lay of the land. We have beautiful ancestors Lemuria, we have the shamanic traditions, and then we have the natural world supporting us. So let me know if you have any questions on this reading. I look forward to seeing you in the lives. If you're watching the replay in a future month, I'd love to hear your comments about this reading and how it sat for you at this moment in time. Thanks so much. I'll see you all soon inside the portal.